Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Today is an absolutely historic day. See, there's two massive news that have broken today, and the mainstream news media is not covering this. Why? Because, well, it's going to completely, absolutely, and totally destroy the Democrats' narrative and what they've been saying. But, ladies and gentlemen, Trump is talking about it. His administration is talking about it. Some mainstream news media are talking about one of the stories that we're about to cover. It's absolutely fascinating. We've been waiting for this. We knew that this was the truth, but now it's here. The Democrat Party is in complete chaos, ladies and gentlemen, complete charades. They're breaking apart and destroying themselves because of this news. Do me a huge favor, ladies and gentlemen. Smash that thumbs up. Subscribe, leave me a comment. How's your day going? And really quickly, I just want to tell you guys, I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everyone who's watching and watches my videos. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. It's Trump 2028 all the way. Let's go. Now, first, there's two things. We're going to talk about what was discovered down in Georgia. And number two, Trump's Epstein's connections. They're not what they told us they were. First, I want to talk about the Epstein connections. ABC News had to admit this earlier today.
This morning, a new document coming to light claims in the mid-2000s, President Trump called police about Jeffrey Epstein. Among the 3 million Epstein files released by the Department of Justice last month is a 4-page FBI report on an interview the Bureau conducted in 2019 with the man believed to be former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder. Ryder and his detectives began investigating Epstein for human trafficking in 2004. According to the document, Trump called Ryder around that time and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Ryder also says Trump said he threw Epstein out of his club, and he was around Epstein once when teenagers were present, and Trump got the hell out of there. The former police chief says Trump told him to focus on Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, saying, "She is evil."
Did you have any suspicions that he was molesting young women,
No, I had
underage
no
women?
idea. I had no idea.
Trump has long denied having any knowledge of Epstein's crimes, but Ryder says Trump was one of the very first people to call.
So what you heard there was this. They've been telling us that Trump is a pedo. He's a bad guy. He's been doing all these horrible, disgusting things, and he's in the Epstein files. Well, the Epstein files came out, and now even the fake media news has to admit Trump was actually working with the police down in Florida and working with the FBI to take down Epstein, to take down Maxwell, and to take down that disgusting ring of pedos since the early 2000s. Now, this is the big one. This is the storm. It's been unleashed.
We got a lot of big news for you today. In fact, I would argue that today is one of the most momentous days in the fight for election integrity in a very long time. Just the news obtained just a short while ago, the affidavit that the FBI filed back in late January for probable cause for that raid on the Georgia Fulton County election warehouse. What the FBI says in that affidavit is extraordinary. It says it has, quote, substantiated, those are the exact words, that there were irregularities in the vote count in Fulton County. That is the Atlanta area, the largest urban center, the largest vote center in Georgia. FBI Special Agent Hugh Raymond Evans first filed the affidavit last month. It got unsealed today. It establishes the probable cause for that raid, which were 700 boxes of 2020 election ballots were taken from a storage warehouse. After getting a referral, by the way, this is something we learned in the affidavit. The referral of this information, the specific credible evidence, came from the White House election integrity czar, a guy President Trump picked named Kurt Olson. Now, the FBI agent wrote in that affidavit that, quote, some of the allegations that were raised about the Georgia election have been disproven, while some of the allegations have been substantiated, including through direct admissions by Fulton County. I want you to stop and just think about that for a second. Fulton County is now admitting they did things inappropriately for the 2020 election. Doesn't mean
Fulton County is now admitting that they did things inappropriately, and now he gets into the details.
The vote totals are going to change, but the way they count it and how they audit it and how they did the recount clearly in great concern. His affidavit cited 5 major areas of irregularities. I'm not going to go through all of them with you. I'm going to tell you all 5 are things that Just the News reported between 21 and 24 during our investigation of the Georgia election. Now, some of them are pretty simple. The ballot counts didn't match. They would scan images, and then some of them were lost. They would sometimes count, then the counts wouldn't match. So you have a loss of ballots. You've got ballots that were submitted for counting that didn't go through the proper verification process. There were ballots that were scanned twice, which means they were counted twice during recounts. And I think the most extraordinary admission comes from a top lieutenant to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. He was the Georgia election chief. His number one guy admitted to the FBI, according to the affidavit, that some of the things that the FBI corroborated, some of the things that they got Fulton County to admit to, he himself, as the election chief under Brad Raffensperger, had not heard of and does not think the state ever looked at. Now, remember, Brad Raffensperger was among the people early on who argued that it was a perfect election in Georgia, no reason to distrust the count. Now, in fairness to Secretary of State Raffensperger, as Just the News began to find evidence of wrongdoing in Fulton County, things like the double.
So Raffensperger's right-hand man who ran the election told the FBI that not only was the election weird and, they can't say that it was all great and the safest election in American history, but on top of that, they can even say that the audits, remember Raffensperger was like, it's so secure, we're going to audit it. And then when the audit and the recount was done, they're like, see, everything's great. His right-hand man admitted to the FBI that even the audit and the recount was done improperly. Raffensperger deserves to be in prison.
Counting of ballots, the missing images, the votes where someone marked both Trump and Biden and only Biden was picked the winner. That was a spoiled ballot. He admitted that maybe things weren't as perfect. And perhaps the most important piece of evidence that we put out there and that the FBI relied on in its affidavit, the Carter Jones report. This is a report by Raffensperger's personal emissary to Fulton County. He was sent there to observe the 2020 election, 8 pages of irregularities. He observed, the FBI said that is important evidence in their evidence. A couple quick things that just jump out in this affidavit. Then we're going to get to our first guest, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. We'll get his reaction on this and a whole lot more, including the subpoenas he issued for big healthcare companies and health insurance companies today. But there's a moment where the ballots are being recounted in a recount, and they don't match. They come up 17,434 ballots short. And then magically, without explanation, without anything changing, they suddenly reported the next day, oh, the ballots matched. Now, why is that important? If, as the FBI agent says in his affidavit, if they can prove that were intentional, that they knew they were misleading the public, that they knew they weren't following certain amount of the state laws and regulations for the election, they can be charged with fraud under election integrity statutes. A lot of ways of looking at this is that they may never get to the bottom of whether fake votes were cast, but they may have the strategy that took down great mob bosses by finding a tax violation or something else, Al Capone. They may have an Al Capone solution to the election integrity problem that has long dogged Georgia. There could be some accountability. Go to justthenews.com.
So when they're looking down to Georgia, they're finding that they messed up. Georgia messed up. Georgia made all these mistakes when it comes to the election, when it comes to 2020, then the recount, then the audit. It was all done illegally. They covered things up. They counted ballots multiple times. Now, I'm also going to show you here. Where was this one? There was a couple things I wanted to run by you guys. Trump actually reposted this. Rasmussen Reports posted this and said, good morning. This was from this morning. Somebody has noticed the missing Fulton County boxes. When does the Georgia cheating stop? Donald Trump, you see right there, highlighted in green, reposted from Dr. Jan, election advocate. She said, thank you, Tulsi Gabbard, and thank you, Attorney General Pam Bondi. And here's what Trump reposted. Do not return Fulton County ballots and election documents to Fulton County until they have all been copied, reviewed, and investigated. Too many questions to answer. Missing ballot box tabulator tapes, unsigned, non-certified tabulator tapes, missing ballot images, altered ballot image files, missing SHA files, missing memory card data, missing absentee ballot envelopes, thousands of double-scanned ballots, thousands of double-counted ballots, and more than 700 minus 656, almost 50 boxes of election documents that Fulton County did not provide to the FBI. Where are the almost 50 boxes of election documents? So Fulton County, still unto this day, is hiding ballots. It's still almost 50 boxes of ballots. They're hiding them. They're not turning them over. They are going against what a judge ordered. Now, if you're a Democrat and you're watching this video right now, I thought we're not allowed to go against the judge's order. I thought if a judge says you got to do something, you better do it. Because when Trump didn't obey a judge's order, you guys were pulling your hair out. Y'all were going silly willy wild. You guys were screaming, he's a dictator. He's a king wannabe. Does that make Fulton County dictators and wannabe kings? Because they are refusing to turn over 50 boxes of 2020 election data, even though a judge said they have to turn them over. Or is it rules for thee, just not for me? Well, wait. There's, where was this? Man, I had this. Here we go. I want to show you this clip of Trump from yesterday.
Well, we're working on the Save America Act, which is going to secure up a lot of things, but secure up our voting. I think people would like to do it, and I think Democrats would too. When you go to voter ID and you ask Democrats, it's polling at 82% with Democrats. I'm not talking about Democrat politicians. I'm talking about Democrats. We have to do something about our voting. We need strong borders. We need a fair press, which we don't have. And very important.
You got me. You guys watch me. So you guys have a fair press. I don't have millions of viewers. Not yet, but we're growing slowly but surely. But we're going to take down the fake news.
We need the strong border, the fair press, and we need fair elections. We need elections where people aren't able to cheat. And we're going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get it done. And by the way, it polls, even with Democrats, they want that.
We should note vote.
So Trump made a promise. He said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make sure the Save America Act is passed. Ladies and gentlemen, for my quick closing statement. President Donald Trump has one shot and one shot only to save this country. And right now I'm being completely serious. What I'm saying right now is very, very serious. President Donald Trump has one shot to save America. There's a big chance we will lose the midterms. We will lose the House in the midterms. There's a massive chance. If history repeats itself, we're losing the House. It's like a 90% chance we are. But if Republicans in the Senate grow a backbone and pass the SAVE Act, we could still save the midterms. We could make sure we win the next presidential election. Because if the SAVE Act is passed, we will keep on holding on to the Senate, the presidency. It's Congress that will go back and forth. But here's what I mean by President Donald Trump. This is he's got the chance, and I believe this is the last chance. Our country's either saved or it's going to keep going down the globalist one world order agenda. And President Trump will either go down as the greatest president in American history that saved this nation, or he will go down as the greatest president who tried to save this nation. If the SAVE Act is not passed, and if our elections are not restored, and if people are not put in prison for Georgia, for stuff like that. By the way, rumor has it Arizona election centers are about to be raided any day now. But moving on from that, Trump can either go down as the greatest president in American history who saved this nation, or he can go down as a president who tried to save this nation. I want him to go down as the president who saved this glorious nation. And with that, he needs Senate to pass the SAVE Act. He needs Kash Patel and Pam Bondi to actually arrest people who are responsible for 2020. We need Maduro on that stand naming names. Who from the United States came to him many years ago and said, we want Dominion and Smartmatic in the United States? Who? Who did he collude with? Who did he work within the United States with to sell drugs and traffic humans and everything else that comes with that? Ladies and gentlemen, pray for President Donald Trump. Pray for his safety. Pray that the Lord's will be done through our president. I really, really hope, our country will be saved. God bless you guys. That's it for this one. I like to keep it short, simple, right to the point. I know your time is very precious, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. Have a great day.